Good morning, everyone. So we'll continue with our talk. Today, we'll start looking at the sutra itself, the details of the chapter on the universal gates of Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva. So at that time, the Bodhisattva Asayamati rose from his seat, bared his right shoulder, joined his palms towards the Buddha, and said, "World-honored one, for what causes and conditions is the Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara called Avalokitesvara?" Asayamati Bodhisattva is the representative who asked for the Dharma in this chapter. Asayamati is a great bodhisattva from the eastern Aruta world, and the Buddha of the Aniruddha world is Samatapatra Tathagata. In the future, Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva will succeed Amitabha Buddha and attain Buddhahood in the western land of ultimate bliss. Similarly, Asayamati Bodhisattva will succeed Samatapatra Tathagata and attain Buddhahood in the eastern Aniruddha world in the future. The holy names of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are all established based on the merits they possess. Why is the Bodhisattva called Asayamati? Based on what the merits is this name established? This can be explained from three perspectives: the world, sentient beings, and the compassionate vows. Regarding the word, the first thing to understand is the word as vast as the Saha world are infinite, boundless, and countless. Buddhist scriptures refer to them as inexhaustible worlds. Among these many worlds, taking the Saha world as an example, the number of people in Jambudvipa, so our world alone, is already immeasurable. If we consider the people of the 4 great continents collectively, the numbers is naturally even greater. Beyond humans, there are other sentient beings. The number of sentient beings is truly beyond calculation. This is not only the case for one world, but for every world. Thus, it is said that sentient beings are inexhaustible. This great bodhisattva, employing his wisdom, observed the world and discovered that there are inexhaustible worlds. And within these inexhaustible worlds, there are inexhaustible sentient beings active, alive. Truly, whenever one goes, there is a world, and in every world, there are sentient beings. Moreover, these sentient beings, driven by afflictions, drift in the ocean of karma, sink into cyclic existence, and are oppressed by various sufferings with no hope of liberation. Asayamati Bodhisattva, unable to bear seeing these infinite sentient beings suffering for so long, give rise to inexhaustible compassionate vows from the depth of his heart. He vowed to save the inexhaustible sentient beings in the inexhaustible worlds, to lead them all to the Buddhahood, and only then to attain Buddhahood himself, and therefore he is called Asayamati. The worlds are boundless and filled with dust and turmoil. Sentient beings are inexhaustible and lost in the vastness of karma. The river of desire is bottomless with surging waves. Therefore, the Bodhisattva is named inexhaustible intent, which is asaya mati. The general meaning is this. It is true that the worlds are inexhaustible, but among these infinite worlds, some are pure and some are defiled. Since the defiled worlds outnumber the pure ones, the vast majority of these infinite worlds are filthy, unbearable, and impure, filled with dust and turmoil. As for the sentient beings in such worlds, no matter how numerous great numbers that they may have, most are lost in the vast ocean of karma, pulled along by the power of their own karmic actions. The fundamental reasons why sentient beings are lost in the vast ocean of karma with no support or refuge is that they are drowned in the bottomless river of desire, endlessly followed the waves and drifting with the current. Thus, the ocean of suffering is boundless. Because sentient beings ceaselessly calculate within the cycle of affliction, karma, and suffering. The Bodhisattva thinks, if I do not arouse the aspiration to save and guide these sentient beings, who else will perform this work? Therefore, the Bodhisattva generates an inexhaustible vow of compassion to save an inexhaustible numbers of sentient beings, hence the name inexhaustible intent. Bearing the right shoulder is a standard protocol used by ordained monks when racing to inquire about the Dharma. When the Buddha was in the world, the monastic robe worn by the bhikkhus was the same as worn by the southern tradition monks today, the Theravada monks, the way of their dress. So according to the Buddhist regulations, bhikkhus do not normally worship the Buddha or expound the Dharma while bearing their shoulders. Both shoulders are wrapped and not left exposed. When approaching the Buddha to pay respect, however, they specifically bare the right shoulder to show their respect, reverence. So Asayamati is a great being who is a candidate for supreme enlightenment and will soon become a Buddha. How could he not understand the holy name of the Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara? The reason he poses this question is to represent those who do not yet understand the merits of the Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, and it is asked specifically for the sake of the sentient beings. Okay, so this is from the sutra, the same sutra. The Buddha said to Asayamati Bodhisattva, "Good son, if there are immeasurable hundreds of thousands of millions of sentient beings who experience various sufferings and distress, and they hear of this Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, and with an undivided mind invoke his name, Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva will instantly observe their sounds, and they shall all attain liberations. If there are immeasurable hundreds of thousands of millions of sentient beings who experience all kinds of suffering and distress, this points to the objects of Avalokitesvara's salvation. Immeasurable hundreds of thousands of millions of sentient beings describes the vast multitude of these beings. Such a multitude of beings exists in this world. not enjoying various pleasures, but constantly be troubled by all kinds of suffering. These sufferings, if explained in details, is inexhaustible. Even taking human beings as an example, there are all sorts of sufferings, such as commonly cited 8 kinds of sufferings, which are unavoidable for humanity. The 8 kinds of sufferings can be divided into 3 categories. Birth, aging, sickness, and death are sufferings of the body and mind. Separation from what one loves and association with what one dislikes are sufferings of the social realm. And the suffering of not getting what one wants is the suffering of a natural realm. If we investigate from the root, Shakyamuni Buddha summarizes the 7 sufferings as, briefly speaking, the 5 aggregates of attachment involve suffering. This means that the reason sentient beings experience suffering lies in the sentient beings, the 5 aggregates being the components of sentient beings themselves. Because these 5 aggregates exist, and because these 5 aggregates are as strong as the fire, this ocean of suffering is boundless. So farish like the fire is burning. So the suffering is continued without a stop. So hearing the name of the Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, calling upon the name with a unified mind, Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara immediately observes them sound and all attained liberation. This reveals the reason why Avalokitesvara received this name. The reason of this name, observer of the world's sounds, is because he bears the sound of sentient beings calling his name. And by seeking out those sounds, he saved them from suffering. Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, with great kindness and great compassion, saves those in suffering and rescues those in distress. It is truly said that there is no suffering he does not save, and no sentient beings he does not liberate. Therefore, when sentient beings are undergoing suffering, if they hear the name of Avalokitesvara and are able to call upon the name with a single undivided mind, Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, observing the sounds of these sentient beings calling his name, will immediately go to relieve their pain, enabling them to attain liberation, free from the bondage of suffering. Hearing this one word is of the utmost importance here. Because sentient beings hear the sound of Avalokitesvara's name, and Avalokitesvara also hears the sound of sentient beings seeking salvation from sufferings, it is only through the mutual hearing that there can be a response and interaction. Because Avalokitesvara pervades all of space and different realms, regardless of time or the space, as soon as the sound of sentient beings seeking relief from suffering is heard, the Bodhisattva immediately, with great kindness and great compassion, manifests before you, rescue you from your pain, and enable you to attain great liberation. Therefore, hearing here truly possesses a great significance. Furthermore, according to the introduction of Avalokitesvara casual stage in the Karuna Puttarika Sutra, the process of his arousal in the mind of enlightenment is as follows. Approximately in numerable eons ago, The Bodhisattva was a worldly, having been the eldest son of a wheel-turning sage king. At that time, the Buddha Ratnagarbha appeared in the world. The eldest son had profound faith and reference to the Triple Gem, and specifically resolved to make offerings to the Buddha and the Sangha for 3 months. In the presence of Buddha Ratnagarbha, he arose the great mind of enlightenment and made a great vow, saying, "If there are suffering sentient beings in any world who seeking to be saved from their pain, call upon my name, and if they are seen by my divine vision or heard by my divine ear, yet I cannot liberate them from their suffering, then I vow that I shall not attain Buddhahood." So seeing him making such a great vow, the Buddha Ratnagarbha considered it extremely rare and precious. Therefore, he highly praised his great vow to remove suffering and provide joy, and bestowed upon him the name Avalokitesvara. And from this introduction in the Karuna Pundarika Sutra, we know that the name Avalokitesvara originates from his arousal of the mind during the casual stage. And it was established from him by Buddha Ratnagarbha. Here, someone might ask, the Guan Yin Pusat, Avalokitesvara, is of great kindness and great compassion. And there are many who call upon the Bodhisattva. But why are those who attained liberation so few? The key lies in how one practices this recollection. What this text refers to as calling upon the name with an undivided mind is the most important move. It means to recite with a single-minded focus, concentrating one's entire spirit upon the name of Avalokitesvara, not permitting any other distracting thoughts to be mixed within. So with one phrase following another in continuous, pure recollection, forgetting everything else in the external world, so that the I who is reciting and the Avalokitesvara who is being recited become fused into one. Only then it be called calling upon the name with an undivided mind. Sentient beings sink and drown within the cycle of birth and death, afflicted by all manners of suffering, and are never able to attain true freedom. If one wishes to escape from cyclic existence, to no longer be constrained by these various sufferings, and to restore the freedom of one's own body and mind, in this age of the degenerate Buddha, the most extraordinary skillful means is nothing other than to single-mindedly recite the holy name of Avalokitesvara, trusting in the Bodhisattva's great kindness and great compassion, who will seek out the sound of our cries and save us from suffering and enable us to attain liberation. The sutra. If there are those who hold the name of the Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, even if they enter a great fire, the fire will unable to burn them, due to the majestic power of the Bodhisattva. The preceding text contains the Buddha's general response to Aksayamati. What follows explained the various kinds of benefits. First, deliverance from the 7 calamities. Second, liberations from the 3 poisons. And third, fulfillments of the 2 kinds of seeking. The 7 calamities are the calamities of fire, the calamities of water, the calamity of black wind, the calamity of swords and staff, the calamity of rakshasas, and the calamity of shackles and chains, and the calamity of thieves and enemies. Although there are many calamities in the world, the most significant are the 7 listed above. The first of the 7 is the calamity of fire, which is the disaster arising from great conflagrations. If one encounters such a calamity and is able to be mindful of the holy name of Avalokitesvara, one will be able to attain liberation. When reciting the names of the Buddha and the Bodhisattva, one must hold on to them firmly. How does one count on holding? It means that the preceding thoughts and the subsequent thoughts are continuous and uneasing, reciting straight on. And that is what is meant by holding. If one holds it in this way, the mind will surely be very sincere. When the mind is sincere, one will receive the response of the Bodhisattva, even if one were inadvertently enter a great fire. The fire would not be able to burn you. Why can the fire not burn you? It is because of the majestic power and the supernormal cognition of the Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, which empowers you in the darkness. Furthermore, speaking from the perspective of principle, suppose one enters a great fire. One should not view it as the fire with a form and characteristics, but rather as fire without form or characteristics. That is, the fire of ill will, the hatred, as commonly discussed. It is not an external fire, but a fire within the mind. The fire of inner ill will also has the function of burning. As it is said, the fire of ill will, or the hatred, can burn the forest of merits. This is most extremely frightening. External fire can only burn things outside the body, or at most destroy the physical body, but it can never burn the merits and wholesome roots one has cultivated. The only thing that can burn away wholesome roots and merits is the fire of ill will within one's own mind. Therefore, while one must guard against external fire, one must be even more vigilant against internal fire. How does one guard against internal fire? When the mind is about to flare up in anger, one should suddenly think of the great being Avalokitesvara and devoutly recite the holy name of Avalokitesvara. That is equivalent to pouring a basin of cold water into the heart, extinguishing the fire of ill will. And naturally, it will not burn away one's wholesome roots or the forest of merit. Anger is mostly triggered by others. When someone comes to provoke, criticize, mock, or abuse you, it is easiest to lose your temper. At such a moment, if you can use the following method, your temper will not arise. First, observe what kind of person is speaking. Is it a nobleman or a villain? If it is an extremely upright, superior man, you must reflect on yourself. A noble, superior man does not criticize others lightly. If he is criticizing me now, it must be because I have many shortcomings. Otherwise, a superior man would absolutely not come to criticize me. I should accept his criticism and correct my fault. How could I still be angry with him? To lose one's temper in front of an upright, superior man is such an embarrassing thing. If it is the criticism of a villain, but why bother to dwell on what he says? If you drill on it and a pity person, would you not also become a pity person yourself? You might even be worse than a pity person, thinking this way. Even if you wanted to lose your temper, you would not be able to. In short, by observing the other party, whether they are nobleman or villain, one should not lose one's temper. The sutra. If one is swept away by flood water, by calling upon his name, one will immediately reach a shallow place. This is the second of the 7 calamities, the calamity of water. The great flood is indeed a formidable disaster. When the floodwaters arrives, house after house were swept away, trees after trees were uprooted, and the fertile fields were instantly transformed into torrents, into desolate rock-strewn mountains. Railways were cut off, iron bridges were washed away, livestock were tumbled along with currents, and the people drowned in the water. So therefore, when a great flood strikes, it can cause people to lose their entire livelihoods and cost them their lives. So there is no one who does not fear such a calamity. However, natural disasters are something impossible to prevent. Thus, when encountering a great flood, aside from doing everything humanly possible, there is no way to avoid it. The Buddha Dharma suggests that the best course is to sincerely contemplate Avalokites Bodhisattva. Therefore, the sutra says, if one is swept away by a great flood, by calling upon his name, one will immediately reach a shallow place. The flood water are not the surging waves of an external ocean, but rather refer to the waters of attachment and desire within our minds. Human beings and all sentient beings are often drowned in this water of desire, losing their lives and their spiritual mandates. The Buddha Dharma states, the river of desire has 1,000-foot waves. The ocean of sufferings has 10,000 layers of pillows. From this, one can see the immense power of the waters of desire. Observe how many young people and women today, defying their parents and those close to them, wallow in the whirlpools of rivers of desire. They do not stop until they achieve their ends, sometimes even committing suicide together. So therefore, one should know that these flood waters are the waters of craving and attachments. Attachment and desire within the Buddha Dharma are considered the roots of birth and death. The reason sentient beings cannot escape the grasp of birth and death is that the roots of the illness lies in attachment and desire. People of the world are deluded by attachments and desire, and thus, throughout their lives, they cannot see the truth and have no way to attain liberation from birth and death. It is like a basin of clear water that is naturally capable of reflecting a face. Because someone stirs and with their hands, many ripples arises and so on. No matter who walks up to the water, they cannot see their own appearance. So when people's single thought moment is diluted by attachment and desire, and they are filled with delusive conceptualizations all day long, how can they see the truth? Because of this, not only those who have renounced the secular life as monastics, but every practitioner of Buddha's teaching should cast aside attachment and desire, cut off the currents of attachments and desire, and restore the fundamental mind to purity. Then they will see the truth and attain liberation. If there were hundreds of thousands of millions of sentient beings who seeking treasures as gold, silver, beryl, giant clam, agates, coral, amber, and pearls enter the great ocean, and if a black wind were to blow their ship and cause it to drift into the land of Rakshasas, if among them there were even one person who chanted the name of Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, then all these people would be liberated from the danger of Rakshasas. This is the third of the 7 calamities, the calamities of the Rakshasas demons. As the wind calamity, it is referred to the scriptures as the black wind. The wind calamity is referred in the scriptures, these strong winds, that we do not know exactly what kind of wind that is the black wind actually. Those who live in Taiwan or tropical have considerable experience of the wind calamities and understand their the severity. When the typhoon season arrives every year, the power unleashed by the typhoon is truly shocking. The losses suffered each year due to the typhoons or hurricanes are almost significant. So typhoons are a natural disaster, and in today's age of advanced science, there is still no method to eliminate them. We can only heighten our vigilance and devise ways to take precautions, thereby hoping to minimize the damage. Therefore, this is a great calamity. What is mentioned here are the 7 treasures. Gold is yellow gold, silver is white silver, beryls is the blue colored gem, giant clam is the white colored gem, cornelian is the red colored gem, coral is a treasure shaped like tree branches, amber is formed from 1,000 years old pine resin, and the pearls are individual precious jewels. The 7 treasures mostly originate in the sea. Therefore, those who seek these treasures often travel in a group to a great ocean to collect them. To enter the sea to seek the treasures, one must travel by boat. These hundreds of thousands of millions of sentient beings seeking treasures board ships to enter the great ocean. After sailing for a short time, suppose they encounter a black wind and blow their ships and vessels, drifting them into the land of the Rakshasas demons. The Rakshasas are said to be human-eating ghosts that live on the islands by the sea. They await for people to arrive so they can devour them. They are described as having mouths like blood-filled basins, eyes like copper bells, hands like iron pitchforks, blue faces, and protruding fangs, which makes them truly terrifying to behold. Due to their swift movements, they also known as yakshas or swift-moving ghosts. For those who seek treasure, if they unfortunately encounter a black wind and are blown to the land of the Rakshasas demons, needless to say, their lives are in great danger. At this very moment, if among them there are many people, or even one person, who recites the name of the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, then all these people shall be liberated from suffering of the Rakshasas. The ocean represents the great oceans of Buddha Dharma. The 7 treasures are the 7 holy assets mentioned in the Buddha Dharma. The black wind refers to ignorance. The Rakshasas demon refers to the intention to kill. The ship refers to the life of the sentient beings. This means that if a person who has entered deeply into the ocean of the Buddha Dharma, desiring to cultivate and accumulate the 7 holy assets, suddenly encounters the wild wind of ignorance and stir up the thoughts of killing, their life will consequently disintegrate. The sutra, if there is someone who, when about to be harmed, call upon the name of Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, the swords and staffs held by their attackers will immediately shatter into pieces, and they will attain liberation. Among the 7 calamities, this is the 4th, the calamity of swords and staffs. The sword refers to a blade which can slaughter and cut up apart living bodies. The staff refers to a club, it's like a which, if light, can injure the body, and if heavy, can harm life. Therefore, no matter where people go, if they see someone brandishing swords or staffs, they always keep a safe distance, feeling that they might be struck by them and lose their lives. If one violates the laws of the state, one must subject to the punishment of the state. If one is sentenced to the ultimate punishment, what in ancient times was called the crime of decapitation. It involves the use of a blade. If one offense is lighter, one might be punished with a board or a rack, both of which refer to as a staffs. To be subjected and to the punishments of swords and staffs is equivalent to encountering a calamity. Therefore, one must try to avoid them, as there is no one who does not fear swords and staffs. Suppose one encounters such a situation, what should one do? The sutra says, if there is someone who is harmed without cause, who suffered punishments for breaking the law, or who is beaten up after encountering armed robbers, in such at that very moment they are about to be harmed, if they can single-mindedly recite the name of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, then the swords and the staffs held in the hands of those who wishes to harm you will immediately break into pieces, and you will attain liberation. Well, yes, so you'll be safe. Immediately means very quickly, at once. Swords and the staffs are both lethal weapons. If they were truly applied to the body, one's life would certainly be harmed. Now, because of reciting the holy names of Avalokiteshvara, those swords and staffs are instantly broken into pieces, losing their power to harm, and they will no longer be able to injure your life, so you will attain liberation right then and there. When people encounter the peril of swords and staff, it is entirely due to the casual conditions of evil karma, whether created in the present life or in the past. According to common teaching, once such evil karma exists, one is destined to face the calamity, as the power of karma cannot be avoided. However, because of the power of the good karma generated by reciting the holy name of Avalokiteshvara surpasses the power of the casual conditions of the evil karma one has created, it is able to neutralize all such evil karma. And once the evil karma is weakened, even if one is attacked by swords or staffs, no harm can be done, and thus one will attain liberation. So the swords and the staffs can be discussed in terms of physical swords and the staffs and of non-physical ones. During China's Tang Dynasty, a perfect named called Zizhu faced a catastrophic famine in his jurisdiction. Moving quickly to save his starving people, he was an officer in the government, so he distributed states' reserve grains without waiting for the emperor's mandatory approval. Though his actions saved thousands, he had broken the law and was sentenced to execution. Knowing this person's upright reputation, the king ordered the executioner to closely watch his behavior at the chopping block. Instead of showing fear and despair, Zizhu smiled and joyfully declared, "I offer this one life to all sentient beings." Stunned by his selfishness, the executor posed and reported this to the king. And when he tried to explain himself what happened, Zizhu just simply replied, "I couldn't bear to see the people suffer. I arose from a single thought of compassion." So deeply moved by his pure intents, the king pardoned him, so he did no need to die. And Zizhu later renounced secular life and to become a Buddhist monk. So this story teaches that when a person arouses a single pure thought of goodness or compassion, their mind connects with the heart of the Bodhisattva. Also, before he get executed, he prayed because he's a Buddhist. Yeah, allowing them to be rescued from the calamity of physical harm. Okay, so we finish off from here. The time is up. So we'll continue next time. So if we face great danger and there's nothing else for us to do at that moment, just pray Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattvas single-mindedly with respect wholeheartedly, and it will work. Okay, so thank you very much.